We're obviously big fans of the Elder Scrolls ourselves. These are the kind of games that we would be playing if we weren't here making them.
This is the whole important part. This is the frothing, or as we say here, making a potion.
That's how we make potions in Skyrim.
There are about 30 or 40 of us. We've been together for over 10 years at Bethesda Game Studios. These are the same leads that were working on Morrowind, Oblivion, and this is their third Elder Scrolls game with Skyrim.
It wasn't a question of whether we were going to do a fifth one. It was more, what did we want it to be? How is it going to be different?
Skyrim is sort of this culmination of over a decade's worth of making open-world RPGs, and we're trying to take everything that we've learned and focus it onto this one game.
You're the leader of the rebellion.
I thought it was weird when he said, "You're the leader of the rebellion." Like, is it just because it's a robo voice?
Sort of starts like with a kernel of ideas that Todd has, and a couple of the key people who've been here for a long time worked on all the Elder Scrolls. So we sort of know, like, after the previous game, what was the feedback, or what was that game? Then where is this game set? What do we want to do different? What do we want to improve upon?
Usually with great gnashing of teeth. That's usually where you start.
One of the reasons why we did Skyrim is it has more developed lore than some of the other places. We've written more about it. There's been more references in books. So we knew more about it. We had more of a starting place, and it was also, we thought it was cool lore.
What is the tone of the game? How does the player feel about the world they're in? We're gonna let you create who you wanna be, so we don't wanna define as much who you are, as much as how do you feel about the world that you are exploring? And so for us, when we first start talking about one, is what is the tone of the world? And then everything else comes out of that.
So Matt will go off and make art and start to sort of get the look based on what Todd has said and what they talked about. And the designers, Bruce and those guys, will go off and sort of come up with the main quest and the characters. And then we just meet each week and talk about it and iterate upon it and see what works and what doesn't.
Oblivion, the last game we did in the Elder Scrolls universe, was a very core fantasy where the area it was set in, Cyrodiil, was very much all races, all ethnicities, all cultures, all, you know, it tried to be a little bit of everything. Skyrim is much more of our hardcore, like, Viking fantasy.
We sort of settled on Skyrim as, you know, different from Cyrodiil, which was very civilized and the center of the empire, and we wanted to kind of mix things up, make it rougher, less peaceful, definitely, you know, more brutal.
Skyrim starts the way every Elder Scrolls game starts. You're a prisoner, you don't have a background. And it's sort of like an Elder Scrolls tradition. We want the player to fill in those blanks, you know, with their own imagination.
Elder Scrolls especially, we give you, you're a blank slate. And we've wiped your history clean, and you're free to make your story as you wish.
And in this particular case, you're being led to your execution. And the execution is interrupted by a dragon attack. And you were a criminal and you were accused of some crime, but it's like, what is this other stuff going around? There's this weird civil war going on. And there's a lot of tension in the world. And
in Oblivion, you weren't the person that saved the world. You helped the person save the world. But we definitely knew, like, this is Skyrim, you know, the land of the barbarians. We want you to feel like, you know, the Nord hero here.
If you were to look at the PowerPoint way back in the day, dragons was #1 on that list. We are going to do dragons in a way that you've never seen before in any RPG.
We haven't had dragons in the Elder Scrolls. We had one in Redguard, but that game is set in the past. And so they're kind of become these mythical creatures people talk about, but you never quite see.
You know, there have been rumors of dragons coming back, and no one's really believed it because, as far as anyone knows, dragons are gone from the world. They've all been killed off, you know, hundreds of years ago. But now here's this dragon. What's that about? The Nords have this god in their pantheon, Alduin.
Alduin, who is this, I don't want to say evil, but dark god in the Elder Scrolls lore, he is a dragon.
In the ancient times, he sort of ruled over the humans in this part of the world.
Alduin's Wall is sort of a history in stone. of the last time that dragons were seriously resisted by the human beings of the world. And it tells the story of how Alduin was defeated the first time.
And the prophecy goes that he will return and eat the world. Well, that's what happens in Skyrim.
And part of what is written on the wall is the player's journey, the player's destiny.
And so you start out trying to figure out, what does it have to do with me? Pretty early on, you learn that you're Dragonborn, and so you're trying to figure out, what does that mean?
The Dragonborn is someone who has the soul of a dragon, and there hasn't been one in so long. People almost wonder if it's a myth.
Dragonborn is that's something where it gets really kind of metaphysical, we don't want to define it too much. That's what we do want it to be. Well, how does that work?
You show up and you start exhibiting these powers, and people are like, oh my God, could it be true? Is this the Dragonborn? Does this person have the voice, the Thuum, this power of old? And if so, what does that mean?
And what it really comes down to mean is anointed by the gods with the soul of a dragon.
This is something that, once every few generations, you have someone who's born with this ability. So you as the Dragonborn, you must resolve the problem with the dragons. You must find out what it is they're back here for, and you have to take this head on.
Part of it is a mystery, and then once you have okay, this is what's actually going on, then it takes on a more adventurous, less mysterious tone.
Like a lot of game story ideas, it comes in little fits and spurts, and it starts with something simple and starts to grow into something more elaborate, and finally you take away some of the excess and you're left with something rather clean. For us, it started with a very simple concept of dragons. If we're going to do dragons, we need to do dragons right, because it's a big deal. This isn't something you can just, oh yeah, there's another creature like a bear walking around in the woods.
Part of our challenge was to make the dragons familiar without being 100% cliched.
We definitely like them being characters. They had a culture. They may be terrifying and they may be brutal, but they're also sentient and intelligent, and they have a language, and they can speak, and they will speak to you at times. But they also have a sort of distinct sort of Nordic flavor to them. And they're big.
We wanted the dragon to feel very majestic, so we were looking at, well, how do eagles soar and that sort of thing. But on ground, we wanted them to be a little bit more primal and reptilian in nature. A lot of it is analyzing real-world analogs. So we'll look at bat footage, we'll look at bird footage. It's trying to research so that we're not making a fantastical creature be unbelievable. It may be a fantastical creature, but it still has to feel like it has weight, it still has to feel like it could exist in this environment.
Trying to make dragons feel authentic is, for us, more important than making them feel unique, special, and completely and utterly different. You make the experience of it feel so real that that's what becomes important. The authenticity is what matters to us.
In the Elder Scrolls lore, the ancient Nords had this power of the Thuum, the ability to shout and form these words of power. It was written then, it was never intended, this is the language of dragons. But when we started, we're gonna do Skyrim, or we're gonna have dragons come back, that was a pretty quick decision. It was like, that's what we always meant.
When the dragons in the game, you can hear them speaking the language. So that got us talking about, well, what does this language mean for the player? What kind of device will this be? And so we decided to create this dragon language.
Emil, I want you to write this song. That's how it started. Can you write a song that works in dragon language, that rhymes with the Elder Scrolls theme, when translated into English, also makes sense and rhymes? He's able to come up with things, I don't know how he does it.
I found recordings of Beowulf in Old English. That gave me sort of the overall feel.
As the story goes, he kind of sat on it for a while and went home one weekend and heated up some mead